And good morning. We're live on YouTube and X. It's the Falcons Podcast. We're going to bring in our Facebook group as well, Atlanta Falcons on SI. And then we will get started on this soggy Wednesday morning in the Southeast. And looks like we are good. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. I will be your host today, Scott Kennedy, and we are going to start talking OTAs, which stands for Organized Team Activities. I always have trouble getting the optional out of the O because they are voluntary. But you know what? It may not be, he may not have coined the phrase, but the first time I actually heard the phrase about optional voluntary activities was from Dennis Franchione when he was the head coach of Alabama. He says, sure, they're optional, but so is playing time. So you're kind of expected to be there unless something else is going on. So, and most of the time people are there. There's always a few exceptions, and we'll talk about those. And those end up being the bigger story than who actually is there, is by who's not there, because most of the time people are there. There's some interesting little tidbits we can glean from there, some injury updates, some formations, who's getting work with the first teams, who was there, who wasn't there, that type of stuff. Then, as always, we will get into some of your questions and see what's on your mind that we might be able to have a discussion about as we get into this. But we do go live on Monday and Wednesdays at 8:30, 8:35 in the morning. Usually Nick is with me, but Nick, letting the cat out of the bag here, is actually looking around at maybe moving to the South. So he's been in the Southeast for the last week, and I think he's on his way home, may have gotten home late last night. So it'll be just me again with y'all until we move into, gosh, this is our last podcast of May, and then it'll be summertime, and then we'll be back in June. So, but we go live because I like having the conversation with you. I like doing Q&As. I want to know what's on your mind, and we can have that discussion. So I want to say hello to some folks. Curtis was the first one in here this morning. Good morning, Curtis. He says, morning, Scott, Nick, and Falcons Nation. That's all of y'all. Good morning, everybody. A137 Sauce is in here before we got started, too. He says, good morning, Scott, Nick, and Falcons family. We have a lot to talk about, as usual, with these dirty birds. Yeah. And, it's fairly typical for the excitement for all 32 teams to start building. And we're no different than anybody else when it comes to that in Atlanta with the Falcons, despite the fact that they've let us down more times than not. But still, there's a lot. I do genuinely believe, I've said this before, that there are reasons to be optimistic about this team moving forward. I feel like it's the most talented and deepest roster, and it should be when you've been drafting in the top 15, and then you've got basically a 6th first-round draft pick in 5 years. It should be a talented team. Now it's time to put it all together. But good morning, 31 Sauce. John Harrell, hope you're doing well. Good morning. I'm not sure if you get to as wet as it's been, and I don't know if you're I don't think you're in the Southeast as wet as it's been. I don't know if you've been able to get out and be on racing slicks here lately, but John races that BA Mustang that he's got there, which is really cool. Larry, hope you're doing well. Red Swarm, good to see you as well. He says, good morning, Scott, and all of my fellow dirty birds. That's all. Y'all rise up. Ron Rogers, been up since 4. Good morning. I think I got up to pee for about the 3rd time around 4. And then you kind of look forward to summer. Both of my kids are entering high school. One of them has already been in high school, but middle school, they get to sleep late. And you hit summer, you're like, okay, I get to sleep in just a little bit. No. I've got a cat that wants breakfast at 6:10 every morning. I play tennis with him as I bat him off me, and he comes up and makes biscuits on my arms until about 7 a.m. So I'm up and down a lot, Ron. Master Kioski, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Glad you could make it with us. He says, morning, fellas. Morning, all y'all. And I'm sure we got some ladies coming in here, too. Like Carrie. Carrie, good to see you. She says, good morning, Scott. OTAs are here. National media bringing up Kurt not there for these voluntary workouts. I wish the Kirk saga could end. I don't want it to take away from Penix's first full season. And that's one of the things I've been talking about. People want to just say, why wouldn't you keep, if you can't trade him for anything, why wouldn't you keep him around? He's the best backup in the league. On Madden, maybe, but it's also could be a very big distraction. And I think this is genius because Kirk doesn't want to be there. The Falcons don't want him there. They just, they're playing hardball with the rest of the league. They also don't want to admit that they totally screwed up the situation and are hoping to salvage something out of it. So I think this was genius on Kirk's part. It's kind of passive aggressive. When he showed up for the first set of OTAs, again, voluntary, you don't expect a one-away player. He's not going to hold out because he wants all his money. He's not looking for a new contract. Holding out doesn't do him any good. Falcons would love for him to hold out. But even during the coaches' meetings, Raheem Morris said, we don't expect him there for voluntary workouts because you don't want to be there. And he showed up. And what happened when Kirk Cousins showed up? He became the story. What happens when he doesn't show up? Well, now it's the story that, wait a minute, he showed up the first time, he didn't show up the second time. That becomes the story again. And yes, it's a distraction, and it does take away from the rest of the team, and it does take away from Michael Penix's debut season. But we want it to be over too. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, yes, it's easy content, latest trade rumor, but I'm tired of it too. And for the most part, I think the reporters in the field did a really good job of, focusing on the players that were there. Want to hit to John Harrell. And that's all I'm going to say about Kirk Cousins until we want to have some more conversations. If you ask me questions, I'll answer. We'll have the discussion. But I'm not going to voluntarily just bring him back up. But I thought it was genius from Kirk Cousins. He ended up, being a big part of the news cycle again by not being there. If he wasn't there the first time and he wasn't there the second time, so be it. No big deal. That was expected. But he was there the first time. Whoa, that's a big surprise. Then he's not there the second time. There you go. John Harrell says, question, Scott, what's your opinion of Troy Anderson? I think Troy Anderson is arguably the most physically gifted player on the Atlanta Falcons defense. I think he is a tremendous football player. He made, I think, all conference at Montana State player of the year at like 3 different positions, at running back, at quarterback, and linebacker. The dude can play football. But, this is a good analogy. I use this all the time. You race dragsters, you drag race. You know that all it takes is just, a pop rubber band and you're out of the race. Meanwhile, that diesel tractor from 1940 is still chugging along. Those are the offensive lineman types. These guys that are so hyper tuned, and he's getting the absolute max from his physical ability at 6'4", 245 pounds, running in the 4.4s. I mean, he's a 10. He's a 10 on the relative athletic score. That there's a tweaked muscle here or there. There's more that can go wrong, and he cannot stay on the field. I think he is a phenomenal football player. If his injury score wasn't a 10, speaking of Madden, I would love to have him out there, but you cannot go into the season counting on Troy Anderson. You can't. I cannot go through when I'm allocating my resources. What do I need? I need more help at inside linebacker. And if Troy Anderson ends up stays healthy, man, awesome. I've said the same thing about Braylon Trice. I've said the same thing about DeMarco Hellams. I can't count on those guys. And look, the Falcons didn't. They did not. They went out and signed Divine Diablo. Awesome. Added some speed. They drafted 2 edge rushers. Great. They went and got another safety, 2 of them actually. Now, if DeMarco Hellams, if Braylon Trice, if Troy Anderson outplays the new guys that were brought in, that means you've got great competition and you're elevating your level of the position and you've got some depth. Awesome. The Falcons did not go into the season status quo. I don't have a lot of hopes from Troy Anderson. If he's healthy, I think he's phenomenal. I think he is a game-changing player. The last time we saw him for a full game, he was NFC Defensive Player of the Week against the Saints. Can't stay on the field. So not counting on him. And if he can't stay healthy again this year, then it's the last year of his contract and he's gone. Going back to Larry has a question here. One of the other players that was not at OTAs, at, again, voluntary, and I don't want to make too much of this because I don't have all the information, so I'm not going to pass judgment. On the surface, Kyle Pitts not being there is not a good look on the surface. It's not a good look because what are the questions around Kyle Pitts? Effort and attitude. Is he putting in the work? And then all of a sudden the first, full veteran voluntary workouts where everybody's there. If Jake Matthews can be there, you can be there, typically. Then it's not a good look on the surface. I don't know what the excuse was. I don't know why Kyle Pitts wasn't there. Could be something, completely excused. They weren't, when Raheem Morris was in front of the camera, not everybody had showed up yet. So he didn't know who was there and who wasn't, and didn't get a chance to ask. Someone will ask, why wasn't Kyle Pitts there? I don't know. So I'm hoping it was something good and not just, I'm hoping there was a good reason, a good positive reason for it. But Michael Penix was asked, have you been able to throw? Because he's thrown a lot with guys in the offseason. You've been able to throw with Kyle Pitts. And he was pretty quick about it. He said, yeah, been able to throw with Kyle Pitts. He looks good. So I've never really questioned Kyle Pitts' work ethic in practice. I feel like sometimes maybe he gets discouraged in games and kind of checks out. But, there's never been a hint of he doesn't work. There's never we're going on year 5 now. There's never been a sniff of he won't put in the work. That's never been a thing. So, I kind of like Troy Anderson, kind of like DeMarco Hellams, kind of like Braylon Trice. I don't have high expectations for Kyle Pitts because I've seen 3 years of lowered expectations. If he can become even 75% of the guy that they thought they were getting when they drafted, he should be a Pro Bowler on something like that. So we'll see. We'll see on Kyle Pitts. I'll be pretty surprised if he's absent the whole time. That will surprise me, but I think we'll get some. I think we'll get some clarity on that before too long. Shannon Jackson, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Good morning. Carrie has another question. She says, "Do you see that the Falcons social media page posted Jesse Bates a third and Ford in a photo, and they wear 3 and 28? And after fans said please delete, they did. But screenshots are forever, and we're being trolled." It took me a second. 3 and 28 because it was backwards. You're used to seeing those numbers in reverse order. Oh, it's amazing how one kind of innocent, innocuous mistake. I don't know. Maybe they should just get rid of the number 28 altogether. Just ban it. That way, that's the only way to make sure that never happens again. Just ban the number. And no, I didn't see that, Carrie. Oh, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate. There's certain things we just don't want to talk about, and that's one of those the game that shall not be mentioned. Michael Ronquillo, good to see you. Appreciate you being here. The sunrise with us. He's out in Arizona, so he's up bright and early with us. Tabro says, I think we've been pretty good in the first half of the season. It's the second half. The sky starts falling. Yeah, part of that has to do with depth. Part of it has to do with the importance of games, the intensity ramping up, and good teams rise to the top and bad teams kind of sink down to the bottom. Part of it's been injuries. Last year, unless you ask the Atlanta Falcons, and Kirk Cousins was not injured. He wasn't. But, you saw his play fall off a freaking cliff after he was planted into the ground in the Saints game. And no, I don't blame him for not discussing the injury. No, I don't blame him for trying to play through the injury. That's what professionals are expected to do in the brutal game of football, is suck it up and go play. The vets will tell you everybody's hurt. Go out and do it. It's up to the coaching staff to say, wait a minute, I've got analytics on his throws and he's down 5 miles per hour. His spin rate is 25% off. Oh, and by the way, he sucks. I've got a shiny 24-year-old rookie back here, first-round pick. Why don't we give Kirk the day off? Kirk should have been benched after the Broncos game. Yeah, that was going into the bye week. Kirk should have been benched after the Broncos game. Let him get better. Let him heal. See what's up. And if Michael Penix takes his job, so what? If he plays so well that he keeps it, so what? Again, if it's okay to say, if we have Kirk Cousins for 4 years, then that means we got good quarterback play. Well, if we have Kirk Cousins for 10 weeks, that means we have good quarterback play because Michael Penix came in. That's the goal, right? That's the goal. And Ron, he says, I just wish he'd been honest about being hurt. Kind of felt let down by that. And again, Ron, if you listen to guys talk, you'll hear this. You'll hear phrases like this a lot, Ron. No one's healthy this time of year. Everybody's banged up this time of year. They are expected to play through that. They're expected to. And there's no shame in being a competitor trying to hide. I go back to, Major League. It just is a funny example. When Jake Taylor's trying out for catcher and Lou comes up and he says, how are the knees, Jake? He goes, good, never better. He goes, you wouldn't BS me about something like that, would you? He goes, no, I wouldn't BS you about something like that. He's like, well, you'd better if you want to make this team. It's expected. They're expected to play through that type of stuff and not always be forthcoming with that. So again, I don't blame Kirk Cousins for that. To a certain extent, wasn't Younghoe Koo doing the same thing? Playing hurt. It wasn't coming out, and it may have been a little bit more obvious he's limping around and stuff. But Younghoe Koo was playing hurt last year. These aren't great examples; they're just the most recent example. Marcus Mariota immediately went on IR. Says, "Oh, by the way, I'm hurt. I'm trying to play through this and earn the next contract because I'm basically on a 1-year deal." And when they bench him, sorry, we're benching. He's like, "Okay, by the way, I'm hurt." Well, why didn't you say something? That's just what athletes do, man. That's why they have to put in the protocol to keep players from going back in after they've had their bell rung, because even if they're not okay, they will tell you they are okay to go back in, and that's just part of it. Let me see. Michael has a question here. He goes, Scott, which players need to step up on the Falcons offense and defense this year? That's a good question. I think, Michael Penix Jr. is the obvious one. He needs to be an NFL quarterback. If you get similar production from guys like Bijan Robinson, from Drake London, from Darnell Mooney, you're happy. Caleb McGary needs to play at a decent level. Ryan Newsel needs to play at a decent level at center. The other obvious answer hidden here is Kyle Pitts, but are you doomed if Kyle Pitts doesn't step up? No. So when I say need, which players need to step up in the Atlanta Falcons? Do the Falcons need Kyle Pitts to be successful in 2025? No, they don't. They've got enough other weapons. Now, if they get a Pro Bowl caliber version of Kyle Pitts, awesome. But they don't need Kyle Pitts. There's enough other weapons out there. They need adequate play from Ryan Newsel, from Caleb McGary, and from Michael Penix Jr. They need that. On the defensive side of the ball, I'd say their front three, front four as a whole need to play well. Someone needs to come up and take that cornerback 2 spot and play really well. Then someone needs to come up and take the safety spot. So looking at Xavier Watts, nickel needs to be better. They've invested. Xavier Watts, Jordan Fuller, they've invested. Nickel, they've invested. There's a couple options there, including moving Clark Phillips over to nickel, which should have been done when he was a rookie. Billy Bowman is one of the other OTA notes. Billy Bowman and Jalen Walker were the only two. Now, these are glorified walkthroughs for the most part, but are the only two who were getting first-team reps. Only 2 rookies to get first-team reps yesterday, according to Taryn Womack over at AtlantaFalcons.com. That's cool. That's interesting. I kind of thought Xavier Watts might be in there already. I expect him to be starting no later than week 4. But you need Ruka Rohoro is a big one. He is a big one. He's going to be stepped in. He's going to be given a starting spot is Rook until he's going to given the chance. It's his to lose, I guess is the best way to put that. Whereas your rookie edge rushers, if you go with a 3-1, kind of like they did in Ryan Newsel's year, they'd have 3 down linemen and then a single stand-up edge. That was Bud Dupree. They've got Leonard Floyd. They've got Arnold Bichetti. Those guys aren't necessarily counted on to start right away. But if they do step up, that'd be phenomenal. So guys like that, Ruka Rohoro might be the biggest one for me on that. Let me see here. WTF is Pitts of all people not at OTAs. I don't know. Like I said, I'm not gonna I'm not going to pass judgment on that. Like I said, I will just make the comment that on the surface, it's not a good look. But I'm not going to condemn him because I don't have all the facts. I don't know. You jump to conclusions and you're like, oh yeah, well, he was having his second child yesterday. That's why he was gone. Oh, okay. Or worse, there was something tragic that would happen. Now you really feel like an ass. So I don't know. Like I said, we've never questioned Kyle Pitts' work ethic off the field, have we? In 5 years, this is his 5th offseason with the team now. No one has ever said Kyle Pitts is lazy at practice. He won't put in the work. The questions of Kyle Pitts have always been, ironically, on the field. He's not finishing his routes, and people, make excuses. Well, if he'd get the ball more often, he'd run his routes harder. No. We're not having that. That's part of being a professional. Part of being a professional is going hard every single play. Whether you're getting the ball or not, that's why you're a pro. There's no excuse for that. But never really seen that one too much. Stephen B likes to throw this stat out with Trey McBride having career TDs 7 and Kyle Pitts with 10. Extra year in there. So I think Trey McBride has 3 years. Kyle Pitts has 4. But Stephen, I want you to look at another one. Drafted tight end, 55 overall, 2nd round, same draft. Go play that game with Pat Freiermuth. Pittsburgh Steelers, and tell me how that one works out. Ray McLeod wasn't there also, and Caleb McGary wasn't there also. That's true. That's right. And again, those aren't as big as stories, and I don't necessarily know the reason. Now, this one is pure speculation. 100%. Caleb McGary and Ray McLeod are both in. Let me double check this. I'm almost positive. So I know this is right about Caleb McGary, but let me double check on Ray McLeod. But Caleb McGary is in the last year of a contract with no guaranteed money on it anymore. Guys don't like to, that makes them nervous. We've talked about, I can't believe the Falcons haven't done anything with his contract. Ray McLeod is on a $4 million cap hit with $700,000 in dead cap. So he doesn't have any guaranteed money either. Okay. So this isn't saying this is happening with these guys, but in general, players do not like playing the final years of their second contracts because there's no guaranteed money in there. It ends up being a week-to-week contract. If they get hurt and they get cut, they are screwed. They don't owe them any more money. You might get a small injury settlement out of it. But if you are cut right now, if Caleb McGary is cut, he doesn't get any more money. And personally, I happen to think that's ridiculous. Why do you hear about holdouts in the NFL and not any other sports? Because the most dangerous of sports is the only one without guaranteed contracts. So, the two guys, maybe it's coincidence, maybe it's not, but two of the guys that weren't there at voluntary workouts were in the last years of their contracts and don't have any guaranteed money left on them. All right. Let me say hello to some more folks here. Chris Walker, good to see you. Says the number, not the player currently wearing it. Bates is a keeper for sure. Like I said, the only way you get rid of it is maybe get rid of 23. Make sure it's an offensive player moving forward. Keith Robbins, good to see you as well. Unnormalized says, what's the deal with Ryan Newsel? Do we have a starting center or not? Yeah, they have right of first refusal. He's in camp, hasn't signed his tender. I don't really understand what the holdup is. They've got, I don't know the date on it. Apologies. I'd look it up if I had just 2 seconds. You've got a certain amount of time before you make them an offer. If no one else offers more, then that is the offer that they get signed to. That goes to a certain date. So he hasn't signed that tender, but he's at camp. It's like 99% understood that Ryan Newsel, even though he does not have a contract, is an Atlanta Falcon. So that's it. I don't really understand it. Again, the Falcons do a lot of things that are unconventional. This is one of them. I don't remember hearing of a guy doing this before, to be honest. Matt S., good to see you as well. He says, Scott, what are you most excited about this upcoming season? Seeing the defensive improvement. Obviously, the obvious answer is, I want to see Michael Penix throw the ball around. I'm like, yeah, okay. But for me, I want to see improvement on defense. I'm excited to see the new faces on that side of the ball, including what Jeff Ulbrich does with them. I'm excited to see Rook Orohoro, defensive tackle. Again, he is a very plus physically gifted human being. His relative athletic score is in the 9+. It's really close to 10. He's a height, weight, speed guy. I want to see James Pierce Jr. go out and prove that he was worthy of a first-round pick after some questions about it. And again, you can't do anything about the narrative that the Falcons overpaid. People just, again, I call them willfully ignorant. Oh, they gave up a first-round draft pick to move up into the first round. Wait, what'd you say? They gave up a first-rounder to get a first-rounder? Okay, morons. That's not that big a deal. They swapped a third and a second to do it. Big deal. Jalen Walker, I'm interested to see, obviously. Better, I just want to see more attacking play from the defense. This passive prevent death by 1,000 cuts made me want to have 1,000 cuts. It was so painfully, frustratingly, obviously, badly wrong last year that it was just tough to watch. I've said before, again, a lot of y'all know I was director of scouting for scout.com for a long time, and you'd get comments like, what the hell do you know? You're not a coach. Well, here's what I know. I know if an idiot like me who's not a coach can point out obvious deficiencies, then other people can too, who are getting paid a lot more. It's not an evaluation process when you're scouting 5-star guys. I can close my eyes and I can hear the guy that's going to be recruited by Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State and Texas run by. I can hear him. He sounds different. The defense. I want to see improvements on defense. I want to see attacking. If they give up some big plays, fine. Make some. I want to see some big plays. I'm okay with that. If it's a big play, that means Michael Penix is getting the ball back faster. These 15-play, 10-minute drives, I can't stand it anymore. While you're in a prevent, I can't take it, man. I can't. That's what I'm thinking of there. Oh, that's what I think on that. Let me see here. Some more conversation here. Just talk about the photo here. Michael Lewitzki, good to see you. Morning, Here's to you. Cheers. Got the coffee going. Couple other things I wanted to talk about. Per Josh Kendall, notable OTAs here. Kirk Cousins, Caleb McGary, Ray. Yep. So you can tell as I'm scrolling down some, I'm a little bit behind. I'm about 5 minutes behind. Will Anderson or Divine Diablo start, you think? Will Anderson or Divine Diablo start, you think? Do you think Koo wins his job, or is he washed up when we move on? That's a good question. Speaking of competition, a couple of the injury updates. Younghoe Koo's kind of working by himself, but that's not unusual for kickers. Remember the water boy. Offense this way, defense come with me, special teams run laps, and they're expletive. That was fun. There's one special teams player. Will Troy Anderson or Divine Diablo start? I think Divine Diablo starts. I think in a two-man inside linebacker, it's Caden Ellis. I think it'll be Divine Diablo to get started to begin with. And then let's see where Troy Anderson, if he's healthy, comes in and works as sort of a wild card. It's a great question. Does Koo win his job? I'm hoping Koo wins his job. I'm hoping Younghoe Koo is healthy and comes back and kicks at a Pro Bowl level. We love Younghoe Koo, but he can't keep his job the way he kicked last year. And you might be able to say he was healthy or whatnot. Okay. Or he was injured. Okay, he was. But does he come back? Again, it's not, kicking isn't about who can kick it 55 yards. There are 1,000 guys that can kick a 50-yard field goal across the United States. Probably more than that. There's probably 5,000. being able to do it when it matters is key. And, he was, I think I just looked up his stats. He was like 12 of 18. It's like 66% between 30 and 49 yards. Those are automatics, especially kicking indoors these days. You should miss maybe 2 of those a year, and he missed 6. Those are game changers. $3 million of savings. If you move on, you'd have to sign his replacement. So call it 2.5, because I don't think Lenny Craig would get that kind of money. We'll see, Bryce. He's not guaranteed a spot anymore. That's for sure. And while we love Younghoe Koo, nobody's spot should be guaranteed. There's got to be competition out there. Over under on 40 sacks for this year. I'm going to go with the over. I'm going to go with the over. So, it was they were on a historically bad start to the season last year. It was like 11 sacks through 12 games. It was the only team that had ever done that in the history of the NFL. And they ended up finishing, they got in a little bit of a hot streak and end up finishing with like 31 sacks, 31st in the NFL. Sacks complete leaders. But if they had 40 sacks, they ended up with 31 sacks, which made them 31st. And they had to go on a hot streak the last 5 or 6 games to do it. 40 sacks would put them where the Chicago Bears were. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So middle pack is 40. They should be able to add 9 sacks. Don't you think? I think they should be able to as well. Vincent, good to see you. Welcome back. Glad you're back here. He says, good morning, Scott. What's the possibility of picking up 330-pound zero tech nose guard, nose tackle instead of forcing three tech DT in that position again? Lale London's the only one that fits the bill right now. I will be absolutely floored if we don't see at least 2 more 320-plus pound guys come through Flowery Branch before August. Watch the cuts. They'll be scouting the waiver wires on cut down day for guys like that. What is the possibility of picking up? I'd say it's about 100%. Terry Fontenot has done a phenomenal job of piecing together cast off defensive tackle / nose guards to come in and do a job. Abdul Anderson came in and I always feel like there's the mix him up with the running back, but he came in and did a great job. Lale London has done a good job. Kentavious Street has done a good job. I'm forgetting some guys, but there's 6 to 8 type of guys in there that have been pretty good rotational backups, defensive tackle, nose guards. Eddie Goldman was okay. He wasn't all that expensive. So I think it will happen it will happen. So good to see you, Vincent. Glad you are back. Michael Smith, what are they going to do with Cousins? I don't know. As I've said the last couple of weeks, every prediction I've made since they signed him has been wrong with Kirk Cousins, because everything they've done with Kirk Cousins since they signed him has pretty much been unconventional. I truly believe they're willing to just sit there and let him rot on the bench and hope that he's not too big of a distraction. And again, people say, oh, you got the best backup in the league. Man, guys that don't want to be there and the players around him know he doesn't want to be there, that's not a guy you want leading the team. If something happens to Michael Penix, that doesn't make for the best backup. No, you don't have the best backup in the league. You got a 37-year-old one-away veteran who's pouting and causing problems in the media. That's not the best backup. That's not the best backup. A1, you'll have to help me out here. What's your take on what Roddy and Julio said in their podcast interview? I have no idea what they said in their podcast interview. I saw that there was a soundbite out there from Rise Up Penix. He changes his name all the time. Rise Up Ritter, whoever the hell his name is now. I saw him quote a soundbite saying that Shanahan told Roddy he wasn't even a 4th best option on that team. Well, that's just nonsense. So other than that, I don't really know what he even said. Let me see here. Matt, good to see you, Matt. He says, Scott, who was a wide receiver we acquired from the Bears that got everyone so excited about but got hurt and never played? That was the Cardinals. That was the Cardinals. The guy that they acquired from the Bears was Darnell Mooney, and Darnell Mooney was phenomenal last year. Again, another really good free agent pickup by Terry Fontenot. I think I watched his media availability yesterday, just picking up on some of the things he said. I don't think I've ever seen him with his helmet off. He's a good looking dude. He's got a career on camera moving forward. And then he's real refreshing. He says some of the same things, some of the coach speak things, but he's funny too. But Darnell Mooney had a great year. They asked him, you almost broke 1,000 yards. What do you think? He's like, I didn't come here to get 1,000 yards. I came here to win. He goes, I was in my villain mode last year after getting traded, and you still gave me the good guy award. So that's how good a guy that Darnell Mooney is. Gives me a chance to think of the Arizona Cardinals. They traded straight up Desmond Ridder to the Arizona Cardinals for what the hell was his name? Now you got more in my head, and I can't remember his name. But he hurt his knee in the preseason and never got to play. And he picked up with somebody else. He did sign a contract. I don't remember with who though. Somebody help me out here. You've probably already put it out there. Let me see who it was. Rondale Moore. Thank you. So that ended up being a wash for both teams. They traded Ridder to the Cardinals and they cut him. Ritter's talking about retiring. He could, started a game for the Raiders last year. I think against the Falcons, didn't he? And they end up cutting him, and he ends up on the practice squad. The Raiders poach him off the practice squad because they needed an emergency starter. Did sign with the Vikings. Thank you. It's good spot for him, Rondale. Yeah, it's a shame. Super fast guy, hoping he could get a chance here, but he never had the chance. Had 1 year left on his contract and got hurt. So that ended up being a big nothing for both teams. Ridder didn't play for the Cardinals. Rondale Moore didn't play for the Falcons. That's a shame. I wanted to see him, but that's who that was. Let me see here about talking about Julio. I still don't know which part he said on there. So apologies. I was talking about him holding out 2 years into a 5-year deal. Andre on this says they should ask Julio why threatened to hold out 2 years into a 5-year deal. It depends on the structure of the contract, Andre, is part of it. Again, what's the guaranteed money on it? Now, I don't have any doubt Julio had plenty of guaranteed money because we saw some of those signing bonuses, and Arthur Blank was not afraid to spend the money. He was not afraid to give out the cash. But the structure of a contract could be, if you've got a 5-year, $100 million deal, that's $20 million a year, and you've got a $20 million signing bonus, guess how long that contract actually is? It's a 1 year, $20 million deal. So it depends on that. Now, I don't think that was ever the case with Julio Jones because, again, Arthur Blank gave out fat signing bonuses. It ends up hurting you if you've got a declining player like Deion Jones, like Matt Ryan, like Julio Jones, when you've got so much of that money tied up into a signing bonus and prorated across the length of the contract. And then you want to get rid of that guy, and you can't because you've got 4 years of aggregated signing bonuses to then account for in one season. Julio didn't go out. Time will be good to Julio, but he ruffled some feathers, no pun intended, ruffled some feathers on his way out. And A131 says, Julio said he was sad and disappointed he only got 3 targets in the Super Bowl after having a 200-yard playoff game. Shannon basically sabotaged us because we didn't like the wide receiver core. Yes, that's strange because, all of it's strange, and it all comes from perception because one of my everlasting thoughts of that game was them dropping back to pass way too often. And Matt Ryan coming off the field basically screaming, run the effing ball. That was crazy. The whole thing was crazy. The odds of that happening to anybody but the Falcons is like 1 in 50 million. Couple of other injury updates I want to get to before we get out of here. Braylon Trice got an injury update. The third round edge rusher coming from, I always get him and Dorless confused where they came from. Dorless was from Oregon. Trice was from Washington with Penix. Is working out. Raheem Morris thinks he's on time to be a full participant come training camp. Now, what does that mean? He got hurt in August last year, 12 months removed from an ACL, and hasn't played in the NFL, was a third-round pick, wasn't overly twitchy to begin with, and will start full practice in August. What does that mean? It means your expectations for Braylon Trice in 2025 should be zero. Last year he was hurt. This year is basically a medical red shirt, if you want to think of it in college terms. And then hopefully in 2026, maybe as he moves forward, he can become a rotational player who can come in and help do some run stopping stuff. But for Braylon Trice, your expectations for 2025 should be zero. So that's what I heard of it. And I'm hoping he goes out there and gets outplays the expectations, because the expectations you had coming in for a third round guy like that were fairly low anyway at a premium position. It's like taking a quarterback in the third round, right? Desmond Ridder. You hope to get a little lucky on that one. Matt asks, he says, do we have a real chance to get Ramsey? I don't think so. The Falcons aren't in buyers right now. They're missing a couple draft picks next season already. They're missing their first and their fifth, right? If I'm not mistaken, wasn't that a fifth rounder that they used to trade up and get Xavier Watts? I thought that was actually more expensive than the James Pierce trade. I don't think you want to trade, and then you're kind of up against it with salary cap. You can't take on too much of there. So I don't think Jalen Ramsey is a realistic option for this team. But we'll see. Again, I always vote on the deal not getting made. Take the field. You're going to bet on the Falcons, or would you bet on the other 30 teams that are out there? I'd bet someone else ends up with Jalen Ramsey. My guess is I'd still say LA goes back to LA if possible. Michael says, do you feel any of our rookies could be rookie of the year candidates? Yes. Sacks are easy stats that people understand. Interior linemen, not so much. So if James Pierce Jr., think about it. Jared Verse wreaked havoc last year, but he only had 4.5 sacks. Rookie of the year. Aiden Hutchinson probably got it the year in his rookie season because he had almost 10, which is a lot. So I would say yes. But the other part of it is you kind of hope that they cannibalize each other. It's like, wow, they've got 2. Meanwhile, some other guy in a big media market, let's see, help me out. Give me a name here. Who went to a big media market, one of those big edge rushers? How about the Penn State kid, Abdul Carter? He gets 8 sacks. Meanwhile, Jalen Walker gets 9 and James Pierce Jr. gets 9. They split the vote and the other person gets it. Wouldn't that be great? So that's kind of one of the things you're hoping there. But yes, I think sacks are really easy to quantify for people, whereas it's hard to get interceptions in the NFL these days. The quarterbacks are just so in tune to take care of the ball, and the passing, the coverage rules and the pass rushing rules have changed so much that it's hard to get interceptions. That is Xavier Watts going to be out there? And I don't think nickel Billy Bowman would be, a nickel would be that guy. So yes, Jalen Walker and James Pierce Jr. will absolutely be on early lists when it comes to guys to watch for rookie of the year. That's about all I really wanted to talk about. I had some other stuff that I gleaned from OTAs, some of the leadership. Michael Penix talking about, one of the things he's learning is just kind of learning how to deal with everybody as far as, my leadership style. Does this guy need his hand held, or does he need, a smack in the head? It's different styles. Those are the kind of things he talked about he was learning. And then I thought, make sure I'm not muted again. I thought that Jake Matthews, listening to him was kind of cool because, he's obviously a leader of this team, but he's kind of the guy behind the guy as an offensive lineman, and that's who your offensive linemen are. So him talking about Michael Penix Jr. and his confidence that Michael Penix knows what he's doing. I think he says when he took command of the huddle, the first time he walks in the huddle, he just gave a sense of calm. Like, yes, this guy knows what he's doing. Jake isn't going to be a vocal leader either. You need it to be your quarterback. You really do. And Michael Penix will lead. He's not going to be a big rah-rah guy, and that's okay. But I like having a guy like Jake Matthews behind me, knowing that he's got the respect of everybody on the team and he's got my back. That was kind of how I saw it on that. So I was very interested to hear that. And then obviously there will be no leadership void on defense. Grady Jarrett is gone, and he was a big leader on this team, but sometimes it's time for new voices, younger voices. And that guy's Jesse Bates. This is Jesse Bates' defense. There's no doubt in my mind. I don't think there's any doubt in anybody's mind out there in Flowery Branch. This is Jesse Bates' defense. And guess what that means? That means his defense is in good hands. So Ulbrich, one of the things when I started hearing, we're trying to blend some of the things they did last year with some of the things I like to do, I'm like, that makes my head hurt. I want defensive coordinators to be who they are. That's why you hire them. Now, they've worked together before, so they know who they are, but I want them to be comfortable with what they're doing. And the second part of that, of what Jeff Ulbrich has been saying, is we actually try and keep it simple. We don't try and give them too much. Yes, there's layers to what we can do, and there's complexities, but when I got to San Francisco, they had a playbook that was the size of a phone book. I was like, you got to be kidding me. We want to keep it simple. And frankly, this is a simple game. It gets overcomplicated a lot. People try and make up new words for old things, like off-ball linebacker. Yeah, inside linebacker. We get it. They try and make up new words, simulated pressures. Yeah, fake blitzing. That's not a new thing. To sound smarter than they are, but it's a simple game at the end. Bigger, faster, stronger, aggression, physicality, playmakers. Get out of your heads, basically. And that's what Jeff Ulbrich was saying. We don't want these guys thinking too much. We want them to go out and play. Anticipate, play, react, and attack. And that is refreshing to hear. And when, the question was, what am I most looking forward to? I'm most looking forward to the defense. From being the worst coach unit I ever saw, literally, to an attacking style, more aggressive. I don't care if they give up more big plays. I would rather give up a 90-yard bomb than a 15-play, 90-yard, 10-minute drive every day of the week. Every day. I would rather see that. Now, I don't want to give up 3 a game, but I'd rather see that. And a little bit more aggression and fun. Let's have some fun. On that note, y'all, I'm going to get out of here. Rest of my week, got day baseball this week. I'm pretty excited. Summer baseball's kicking off, and we actually have a Thursday travel game scheduled at 1:40. So I'm pretty excited about that. And we will be back on Monday. Nick should be back with us, and we'll talk about all of the stuff that comes out of Falcons camp and any news we might glean and pick up. Make sure you're going to Falcons SI for your daily coverage. The link is always in wherever you're watching this, it's always in the description as well. On that note, I'm going to get out of here unless y'all have any last words. I want to say thanks for being here today. Hit that like and subscribe on the way out. If you haven't already, welcome to our new viewers. We've got a lot of them. We're on X. I'm going to X now because the other Facebook group wasn't working so well. And we got a bunch of new subscribers on YouTube. So welcome in, everybody. Y'all have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the weekend. We'll see you on Monday.